right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming a little early. We have a longer than usual meeting today. Appreciate everyone. It's such a busy time of year, making time in your schedules for the extended meeting, but we will focus primarily on the budget, though we have a few things to take care of beforehand. But as always, we will do roll call first, and Virginia, I'll start with you.
Virginia Ferry.
Dee De La Rosa, ESD.
Kate Rosenberger, board member.
Jane Cooper Smith, board member.
Phil Amerson, board member.
Heather Robinson, board member.
Mary Morgan, board member.
Michael Hobart, board member.
Okay, and Mr. Faulkner, did you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, Bill Faulkner. I'm here on behalf of Catalent. I work for Ducharme McMillan, and we help them with their property tax filings and kind of all matters property tax.
Great. And then in the back.
Sounds fun.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Do we need to do any intro for online or no?
Do we? I'm just gonna say this is Holly Ward from ESD.
Oh, hey, Holly.
The Bloomington Arts Commission today. I'm here online.
Hey, Holly, thank you. And for our other two that are just, okay, all right.
Great.
All right, good to go. All right, thanks, everyone. And just a couple of regular items here. We have approval of minutes from our November 20th, November 2024 meeting. Any comments, corrections, adjustments, or whatnot? If we have none, do we have a motion for approval?
Motion?
We have a motion. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Financial reporter Cheryl coming.
I don't think the Cheryl can be here till noon.
Okay.
So we should probably just go ahead and proceed with the.
Yep, we can always loop back on that. Not an issue. All right. New business. D, you want to tee this up?
Yes. So, hi, this is the beginning of our public hearing. So we have Ducharme McMillan and Associates here. The filing for Catalent's 22 pay 23 EZID, there were some mistakes in the initial claim. So they refiled. We worked through all of the mathematical errors and whatever, refiled, but the filing was after the due date. So basically, to be able to accept this filing, the BUEA, who is the governing body of these, has to give a written formal approval. The reason that this is so important is we want them to be able to file their taxes so the city can get their revenue. It's a pretty substantial amount of money that the city will lose if the filing is not corrected. And we also would like to get our participation fee so that we can continue to do the good work that we do. I don't know if there's any more that you would like me to go into it, or if you would like to ask any of the representatives from Catalent what exactly is going on, but that's what I have. It's a pretty straightforward, just giving the okay on this.
And it's been approved by the county.
It has absolutely been approved by the county, yeah.
Okay. So it is the jurisdiction of this board, though, to make the approval for the amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're clear on that. Okay.
Approving the amendment and the late filing. Do you have to say both things?
No, we are approving the amended filing.
Okay.
The original
Yes,
was filed
the
timely.
original was filed timely.
Okay.
It is just the amended filing.
Just the amendment.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Faulkner, did you have any comments or anything that you wanted to
No,
add?
we worked through everything with Dee. The original one was filed, and there was an overlap between assets on the abatement and assets subject to the EZ. I noted it when I reviewed it, but it had already gone out the door. I said, we've got to fix this. We're claiming stuff twice. We can't be claiming stuff twice. And so we went back, but by the time you go back to amend it, then it's late. Or past the original deadline, but we filed the original one timely. So we worked through all of that with the auditor's office, the assessor, and I think it was the county attorney as well was involved with all of that. So we worked through that. We appreciate everybody's assistance on that, but we don't want to be overclaiming more than we're supposed to get. So we got everything fixed for 23 pay 24, and then 24 pay 25 had to get changed once, because there's numbers that carry over from year to year. So we worked with you to get everything squared away as to what 23 pay 4 should look like, and then 24 pay 25. So appreciate everyone's assistance and get everything lined up.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions? I think this is kind of a procedural vote for us here. It's been vetted, it's been through all of this hard work, the county and so forth. I don't know that there's anything further. Okay.
I have some questions.
Okay, please.
And this is certainly probably outside your purview, and it's certainly way above my pay grade.
Okay.
But rumors are that the corporate community is not anticipating growth in Monroe County in the future. And having attended a couple of sessions where economic futures of Monroe County have been called into question, I do have some concerns, and especially related to the underrepresented populations in this community.
I think I can address that actually, and I don't know if DMA can or not, but this is not related to future investment in the community. This is related to investments that they have already made and are entitled to per the state statutes that authorize this. There has been other public information, like you've said, about Monroe County and Bloomington's overall growth. I don't think that's related or necessarily impacted by these investments made by Catalent. And then there has been other publicly available information about a purchase of Catalent by another company. And I think that that is exciting, but not germane to this conversation we're having today. And I'm sure DMA is not at liberty to talk about that either.
Cannot talk about future investment.
I appreciate that. I also raise this in terms of what's happened in the last decade to show good faith.
Yeah.
And when the largest black-owned business, oldest in the city, when the oldest is a barber shop, I'm troubled. And just to raise it, it's not anything particularly that you can do, Mr. Faulkner, but I just want to be on record that I'm deeply concerned.
Okay. Thank you, Phil, for your comments on that. Any other comments? Anyone?
Do we have anyone, do we have any public that would like to make a comment? Not that Sam is on any longer.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So we need then a vote on this. Do we have a motion to approve the amended filing?
Motion?
Motion, second.
Second.
Mary, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Abstain.
Oh, okay.
One
abstain.
abstention.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mr. Faulkner, thank you for joining us. We will, unless you want to join us for our budget discussion year.
I just went through our own work.
I mean, I know that you're a numbers person. This is riveting. Yeah.
You could have passed harder.
Yeah, yeah.
You bring up expertise.
That's
I do have
right.
some on that front, but
You do. So you're a numbers person.
I am a numbers person.
As am I, so I understand that not everyone loves budgets the way that some of us do.
No,
So
I just want to say thank you for everyone to helping us work through this. Like I said, I discovered the issue. You know, had I not said anything, it would have gone through and we would have received more money than we deserve. And it's like, that's not the way we play. So we wanted to get it fixed and get it square. Bloomington's been great to Catalent, and Catalent really appreciates it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you all. You take care. Enjoy your budget session.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay. Or these things to sign,
Yeah,
okay.
this is the
Let's go ahead and,
resolution
yep. let's do
as
this
written,
quick.
and then I have you as the.
Okay. Okay, you'll fill in the date here, D, okay.
And I don't think we said it, just that the minutes should make sure it's resolution 2401.
Yes, oh, did it not say that? No, okay.
I mean, we didn't
It,
move it
that
as
was,
such.
that was on me, so just a correction for the minutes, this is resolution 2401.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Mhm. All right. Dee, you wanted to say something about the January meeting date
Oh,
before we get
yes.
into the budget?
So the new year is quickly rolling upon us, and the way that the Wednesdays fall, the first is a Wednesday, and then the second Wednesday is the 7th. And I talked to Heather about this, and I thought maybe pushing it back 1 week might be nice for everybody, so we're not just immediately coming in after the holidays or anything like that. So,
And we're closed on the first anyway.
and yeah, we're closed on the 1st.
So that's actually the 8th.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 8th. I
That's
keep
okay.
on saying the 7th.
It's all good.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that was my thought. I don't know if anyone would like to motion to do
Is
that.
that okay?
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed it. What are we changing it to? The 15th?
The
Changing it.
15th, the
No.
5th,
We would be changing
Wait.
it to the 15th.
The
because-
15th.
Skipping a week, okay.
yes.
Well, because
Okay.
normally we are this third, are we the third?
We're usually the 2nd.
We're usually the
I
second.
don't know, you all just pops up on my calendar and I try to show up, you know? Okay, yeah, I know, that would be great, because I think there's a potential I have to be gone on the 8th if I have to come back into town
Okay.
before Christmas for a council meeting.
Okay, so, since we have a standing meeting on the second Wednesday, do we need a motion to change that to the 3rd on January, or is that just
I'll go
over?
ahead and move
Okay.
to change our meeting date from January 8th to January 15th for our January 2025 meeting date.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Great, thank you all. Okay,
Dee, can you send out calendar invites? I don't have any.
I have not, I was waiting to re-up
Gotcha.
everything,
Okay.
so I can do the one and
Thank
then
you.
fix
Great.
all the rest of them,
And
so,
and
yeah.
question, there, it's at 11:30 or it's at noon?
It's gonna be at noon.
Okay, so I would likely have to join on Zoom every single time
Okay.
because my class next semester ends at
Mm.
12:25.
oh,
That's actually because of the policy that we have, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Okay.
And then I can resend the electronic policy to everyone, just so everybody knows.
Okay.
I'll be on Zoom as well.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, great. So we are here to talk about the budget today. We teed this up a little bit last meeting, but we really didn't have too much time. Holly, we focused primarily on the arts incubator, and Holly gave us some good information on that, but we really didn't get to a lot of the other budgets. So since we have a good amount of time to discuss this, I was thinking that perhaps if we have Dee sort of go through the budget, give us a good overview of everything, and then we could kind of come back and zero in on some specific areas where we see some changes and additions and so forth, if everyone is good with that. Okay, Dee, so.
All right.
Why don't you, okay, so you'll also, let's see, you're starting on your memo, is that where you want to start the discussion?
Yeah, we can start there. We'll start from income and work our way down.
All right, it's page 15 if you're, of the PDF, if you're in the online document. And then for the handout, let's just make sure everyone's on the same page. It's the back side of the memo sheet, yeah. All right, okay, so.
And secondly, are you good? Oh, I thought you needed to. Okay. So, after kind of going over this budget several times myself and with Heather and talking to Jane and all of this, you can see overall, with our budget, we will be working at a loss. Some of that deficit does come from some income decreases. As far as our EZID income, the way it works is that they're all 10 years, but companies slowly come off of that. And I think in my forum presentation, you saw that there were about 2 or 3 companies that were coming off of that. And, you know, many different factors change within that, and sometimes things need to be adjusted. So our projection right now is somewhat less than for 2024. So we've seen a decrease there. We're also seeing a decrease in the RF loan interest. As those loans get smaller, the interest that we're recouping is smaller as well. And then the refunded AIEZ, this is an approximation. I honestly do not know how they figure that, because I've had one that was 20,000 and then the next year it's 6,000. So I just put in a nice lowball number in there because I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that is, so they keep 1% of the fees, and then they cover their expenses and they refund what isn't needed. So it is a variable for them, and that's why it's not predictable for us.
Okay.
And then we do have, as far as the EZID loan program, we have 4 different financial institutions that are part of that program. It's similar in a way that they get a tax break for giving out loans to people within the zone. And they have given out several in the past 12 months. So that is a projection of what we may be getting as far as the interest on all of those loans. Coming down to our bottom lines, we have roughly, let's see, what is that? $80,000 difference between 2024 and 2025, with total expenditures being, actually, let me not get to the expenditures yet. So total income is about a difference of around $80,000. Moving on, as we get into some of the expenditures, I don't think I put in that chart, but I can show it to you. I'm gonna go to my actual budget sheet so you all can see that. So when we get into expenses and expenditures, we have a few lines that have increased. The professional services and management, that is the staff agreement. And the former staff agreement we signed for 2 years, so we will have to re-up that staff agreement this next year. So it'll be an even $50,000. We project insurance to go up by probably double this year, so $7,000 for insurance expenses. Accounting and tax services, at this juncture, it has always been around $1,500, so we've kept it there. Project administration, I have increased $15,000. That's probably not the right math. No, that should actually say $13,000 in the box next to it. The EZID program and administration, the administration expansion of the EZID program is going to be key for us to re-up what we've lost in our income. So for that extra money will go to the consulting firm that we used this past year, that helped me put the presentation together, which frees up my time to actually start looking for other people to come into the EZID program. I think it's an underutilized program for some of our smaller businesses that are buying equipment that could very much benefit from this. So I'm hoping that by having some of this burden taken off of me specifically, that it'll be easier for myself and others to go and look for these folks. And then there's an additional 10K for the strategic planning. I'm looking for someone at this point in time to help me out with that. I think that I'm still kind of trying to assess what kind of strategic planning we want to do, and there are kind of different ways of going about strategic planning. There's the very hands-on in it with every board member that is like coming to things and it takes a lot of extra time. There's also the other thing where someone could just plan it and we just do it, and that's kind of how it goes. So.
And I don't think you have to get too far in the weeds. I mean, the main thing is there's funding to help the board reflect on how to make its funding be deployed in the most effective and transformative way to meet the needs that I think you were alluding to earlier and we all know about.
Yeah.
So I think that will be really great.
Marketing consultant and advertising and marketing is around $10,000. That should also help with the ESID program and promotion. And other things that we're doing as far as our grant programming. Miscellaneous expenses are miscellaneous expenses. So that leaves us at $96,000 that we'll be spending as far as administrative fees. Moving on to grants, our education grants stay relatively the same. We have $50,000 for MCCSC, that's our annual contribution. The Resident Economic Independence Scholarship, $15,000. And then Lemonade Day, which we do every year as well, which is $67,500 total for grants in education. Grants, education, and entrepreneurship, we have the $45,000, which is our annual agreement for IB Tech. The Economic Enhancement Scholarship stays at $10,000. Dimension Build Zone Day passes will stay at $1,000 at this point. The price of that has gone up. I'm still working on leveling out, getting more people to use it.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah. So I think that leaving it at $1,000 and there are less memberships actually probably works out better until we start really utilizing that program. DEI scholarship stays at $10,000, and then we have $10,000 to play with for unbudgeted grants.
I just want to highlight that I see and hear programs that will benefit from the increased marketing in the admin section above, because I think it's really getting the word out regularly. And you guys know Dee is awesome and spinning a lot of plates all the time at City Hall, and it's impossible for one person to build, manage, and market all the things. So so I'm just appreciating that.
I would be crushing it if I could just do one thing.
I just am appreciating that. I think there is a path to success for getting all of these funds deployed next year.
Random question, so on the DEI stuff, has there been any consideration, thought, curiosity with the upcoming presidential administration and how that would look for funding in the future going forward? Does that impact any of this?
I yes and no.
Okay.
I feel like because we are a 501c, well, there's also the 501c3 part of it.
Yep.
We could consider rebranding.
Well, I think, is your question, Virginia, more about like how is our programming supporting businesses who might become destabilized by the change in administration?
That, and also how much of the, like, this might be long range, because things don't happen overnight, especially with government.
Right,
I don't care what
absolutely.
you say and how loud you are, it just doesn't happen overnight. But just kind of longer range, how will these numbers actually look? Because
I
Will
will
it go away?
I will say this with the DEI scholarship. This is so because it's classes and let me dial that back. I think that we could do more with the DEI section of our budget. This is for education. I think that we could probably move into something that is definitely more hands-on or more direct. So I hope that the board would consider maybe reframing how we think about DEI and how we're using that money in the coming years as we see things change. I would always like to increase this line. I think that it's really important for us to be increasing this funding at this point in time.
Okay.
So, but I will leave that up to the board and what happens in the coming years. Anyone else? Since Cheryl's here, I think we should break and do the financials, and then we can have Holly jump on to talk about the Arts Incubator, because your timing was perfect.
I'm very brief because I only have 1 month to report, because we're still trying to figure a few things out with October. And then, actually, and if you could download November.
I'm gonna
that'd
do
be
it while
great.
we're sitting here.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, thank you for your attention today. I'm going to just present September finances for you. So I did send out the financial reports on the profit and loss statement, which is,
This guy.
yeah, that's the small one.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's your
Oh,
budget
I'm
versus
sorry.
actual.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So the one that's profit and loss is very simple. $8,088.79 is brought in as income during the month, and that consists of your banking interest, loan, RRF loan, late fees, and loan interest. On the expense side, for the month of September, you expended $2,795, which went out for a resident scholarship. Other income from CD interest was in the amount of $441.70. So your net income for the month of September was $5,735.49. And if you switch over to your balance sheet, your total checking and savings balance as of September 30th was $2,960,683.31, and that is a combination of all four financial institutions. Other assets totaled $154,446.38, and if you combine total assets for at the end of September, you ended up with $3,115,129.69. On your budget versus actual highlights, basically, your income is at 32.6% of your budgeted amount, and that total is $175,470.62 as income through the end of September. On the expense side, you've expended 26.3% of your budget, and that amount comes to $134,158.93.
What was that percentage again?
26.3%. Let's see. So when you look at your net income, which is your income minus your expense plus your CD interest, your net income is $45,554. I can't even speak today. $45,554.37 through the end of September. And that is as simple as it gets.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like I'm going back to the 70s, because I know the 70s, and we may be headed back there. And this may be in some ways related to the DEI question. As we're investing monies, Do we have any way of encouraging the companies that are holding our funds to have equitable hiring practices and equitable practices in how they make their investments? We fought for that a lot in the 70s and seemed to win, and now it's about to be lost again.
Since I don't know how those contracts or how those agreements were set up initially, I'm unsure if there was some type of clause or something to that effect.
Can we at least ask for, I don't know what to ask for, but something like a report on their investments in minority-owned businesses in the community?
I can look into that.
There are four banks that have branches locally.
Exactly. That's also a piece of the problem, Heather. Yeah.
So.
I used to be able to go down and knock on the door of David Bayer and say, hey, straighten up here.
Wait, why is it a problem that there are 4 local banks?
They're 4 banks that are not locally owned.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They have branches
Yeah.
here. German American is in Jasper. The credit union, IU Credit Union.
Okay, there's that, yeah.
People's.
People's is, I think,
They're
they're
local.
local.
Are they local?
Yeah,
Are they Monroe or?
I thought-
Yeah.
Okay.
And then First Financial, I think is Cincinnati, right?
Cincinnati.
They're out of
So really-
Cincinnati, so.
It's First, and German American is Jasper, but
Mhm.
boy, they are supporting our region in so many different ways, and even through ongoing support of CDFI Friendly Bloomington, which does have a DEI pillar. Yeah, so, but I think those are good questions,
Mhm.
and I wonder. So I think the First Financial relationship is a paired relationship with the
city.
city's overall banking
Right,
relationship.
that's the big one.
Yeah.
And then I guess a question would be, do we need to rebalance our accounts? How much
Right.
operating cash do we actually need? And then
Right.
could we put some of our funds in other interest earning accounts? And then I think the question there is, can you specify what types of investments you want there?
Well, and I mean, I won't go this far today, but there are minority-owned banks
Yeah.
and women-owned banks. And I'm just thinking it may be time to get back in the trenches.
I think this would be a really good discussion too, kind of as part of this overall strategic plan that we're having, because we do have a large amount of money sitting in one
Right.
financial institution, way over what the FDIC is. I don't think there's a concern with that, but that being said, we do have a large pot of money sitting in one financial institution, and so having these discussions about where those funds could be held or should be held, or could we earn some additional, we're in a money market, so we are earning decent interest on that, so it seems like this probably sort of feeds into some of
And
that.
forgive me for making our meeting go longer, and I'll be quiet after this, but we'll know more after the legislature meets in January. And I don't want to borrow trouble, but when I talk to folks at the university, we ought to be thinking ahead.
I think you make a good point, so thank you for bringing that up. And it is something that we've kind of loosely talked about before, but it is with a growing pot of money. Hopefully, we're going to really activate some of these more of these funds next year. I think there's
Right.
an opportunity for that, and so we don't maybe necessarily need to be sitting on this large a pot of money, but we do need to be mindful about where it is and whether or not we have it in places that is working best for the organization. So
Thanks, Heather.
thank you, appreciate that. Cheryl, any other comments for us?
No. I think overall, you're not spending it, at a high rate, and I just, part of that is, I think you'll see more expenses in the October and November statements when those come through.
Right.
When we balance out, you'll see, higher expense, and you'll be getting closer.
And we'll have some
To
more
your spin
revenue
rate.
yet too, right?
Yeah,
Some
and
more
revenue's still coming in. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple
Yeah.
big ones out there that
Yeah.
are kind of in a
Will this
holding pattern at the
Catalent
moment.
that we voted on, will that hit?
I'm sending the
Hoping.
invoice as soon as we leave.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So, yeah,
All
I mean,
right.
it's, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Fantastic.
late in the year, but in terms of just what's reporting,
Yeah.
it's early. So I think you'll see, you'll be much closer to your, your 100% goals.
Okay.
Towards, when I report next month on at least October and November, and this next month is January. We might be able to get the December ones reported at the same time.
Okay.
If we,
Yeah.
depends on, when are you meeting in January?
The 15th.
Okay, yeah, so I should have enough gap there
Okay.
because, it just depends on when
Those
the
statements
statements
yeah.
come out and when your meeting is, and if there's not enough
Understood.
days, but there's
Should
plenty,
work.
there should be plenty of
All
days
right.
there that I can get it done.
Well, great.
So,
We'll look forward to that. Then we'll have Q4. We'll have all the Q4.
Yes, exactly.
In Q1, we'll have all the Q4 in Q1. So, all right, fantastic. Cheryl, thank
Yeah.
you for your time. Appreciate
You're welcome.
that.
Thanks,
Any
Cheryl.
final
Okay.
questions? No, we're
Thanks,
good.
Cheryl.
Okay.
Good luck.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Okay. So we'll need a motion to approve the September financials. Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mary, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, so back to the budget, and we had just concluded the section with the grants, the education and entrepreneurship grants. So we are now really excited to hear a little bit more from Holly. I know, Mary, you weren't with us last month. Holly teed this up for us, this arts incubator. I don't know, Dee, did you want to say anything about it before Holly talks a little bit more about it, and then we have some questions probably from the group?
I would just say that overall that this arts incubator really aligns with some of the goals of the city to incorporate more of the arts into our economic development. I think that the area that it is going to be in is an area that could use more activity on all levels. And I'm really excited about the prospect of something like this. But Holly has the information. Hey, Holly, how you feeling?
I'm okay. Hi, everyone. Am I allowed to keep my camera off? I don't remember.
Yes,
if
you
there's a-
can. You actually
Okay,
can.
awesome. I'm gonna, as long as everybody's comfortable with that, I'm not gonna subject you to my appearance today. And please bear with me, I'm a little under the weather today, y'all. I appreciate you considering this proposal. So basically, we have leased from Secretly Group, which is the largest national independent record label in the U.S., who is based in Bloomington. We have leased 10,000 square feet and their 100,000 square feet warehouse, which is along the B line. The warehouse is actually right across the street from where the community garden is. And we're hoping over the course of the next few years to transform this into an artist studio and workshop and exhibition and performance space. So the hope is we can have between 20 and 25 individual studios for our artists, and also have a few shared workshop spaces. So these spaces would have specialized equipment for artists who work with ceramics, who work with textiles and printmaking and other things. A lot of artists, if they leave a program either at Ivy Tech or at Indiana University, as soon as they leave, they lose access to those resources. So this would be a good way to bring those resources back to our community members once they leave IU. And we would also be able to use these spaces to teach classes to folks of all ages. Another thing that happened when Ivy Tech relinquished their management of the Waldron Art Center is their classroom space and their kilns for ceramics also went away. So this project would enable us to bring that back. In addition to providing spaces for artists to work, which we know after reviewing grants for my experience now, 4 grant cycles after conducting an artist feasibility study in 2022, we know that one of the greatest needs of our artists right now is studio space. So we can give them that with this, but what we can also do is give them additional space to be able to exhibit their work and also to be able to showcase performances. So anything that's not 2D or 3D sculptures that would go in a traditional gallery. So we're very excited about that. At this point in time, we do have bare bone funds to just kind of get this project up and running and get some artists in there in the new year. We're hoping to invite a cohort of 10 artists in March of 2025 to just occupy the space, start making their work. We're also going to ask them to participate in a professional development workshop that we're organizing for them, where they'll be doing workshops to learn how to write grants, how to support themselves as full-time artists. We'll also give them opportunities to have larger, well-known, established artists come in and do studio visits with them and act like mentors. And then we'll also arrange for them to go on some field trips across the region, just to kind of see other people doing the similar type of work around the around this region, so they know that they're not alone in this and they've got a larger network to tap into. So that's really one of the main goals of this, is just to help elevate what we know to be this fantastic emerging, developing group of artists who would otherwise leave to go to places like Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Chicago, where these resources also exist. So we're just really hoping to retain some of our talent by doing this program. So like I said, we have bare bones funds at this point in time to get this program up and running, and we'll kind of be opening it phase by phase. Like I said, we'll start with this original group of a 10-person cohort of artists. We're working with IU to bring some very recent graduates in to fill another portion of those studio spaces. And then once we get that program established, that's when we'll start opening the exhibition and performance and workshop spaces for both them and our larger community. And so what we're hoping to do over time is just get more funding to really make this a high quality facility. And so our ask of $100,000 to the BUEA for next year would really help us get up and running. The most essential need we have right now is to build an ADA entrance to this facility, and unfortunately we don't have one of those right now, and I don't want my artists in there without that. So we haven't asked for that in the budget. I think with that remaining $100,000, we would want to split it between other build out of the space, just building in some permanent walls for the artist studio space, and then we would also want to use some of our BUEA funding to pay for the programming for these workshops and studio visits and things like that. In addition to asking for funds from the BUEA, you'll see in the memo that's included in the packet, we're also making a big ask to Ready 2.0. They have an arts and culture segment of this grant cycle that they're doing that would really enable us to build this out again in a really high quality manner and enable us to bring more staff in to really make this facility pop and have it bring important economic impact to the entire area. So that would really help us level it up, but as part of that application, they are looking for local matching funds. So this infusion from the BUEA right off the bat would also help us with that. I'm gonna stop talking, but I am happy to answer any questions that you all have about this.
Holly, it's Jane.
Hey.
Can I just make one connection that I think is important and might be missing just a little bit? So when we think about the last year and the different presentations we've had, we talked to Michael and Dee about the wealth gap in Bloomington, and this was first discussed in the 2022 Trahan Arts Feasibility Study that put up a huge red flag and said, hey, Bloomington, you don't have any affordable studio space for working artists. They can't afford to be in your community. And then with the work that Dee and Matthew, did this year, we really learned more specifically what that gap is like, and that we have one of the most egregious wealth gaps. And of course, that is going to push artists out of our community. So Holly talked a little bit about one of the broader strategies is to try to retain college grads who are coming out of IU. We know that about 80% of those students want to stay in the place where they graduated from, but we're not doing a good job of keeping them here. But that's just one piece of the population. We also want to support the working artists who are already here. So I just wanted to tie it to the work that you were doing earlier this year. And thanks, Holly. That was really thorough. Oh, and the other missing piece I think is just, this is in the Switchyard Park, across from the community gardens, like Holly said. So it's in the heart of the enterprise zone, and it really punctuates our citywide efforts in activating the Beeline. So on the north side, the city's making a lot of investments in the trades district through the Lilly CCC grant, which will have some arts opportunities. Then we have the convention center developing in the middle, Hopewell, and then this incubator space will really be a hub on the south side that will be a magnet, and I hope just full of activity.
Yeah, hopefully the oil motor.
And then, yes, and
that was
hopefully that'll be.
One of the developments that we funded as well that is right in that area. If that activates into a space of, you know, gathering and maybe restaurant or whatever it may be, that also is an enhancement to that area, along with an arts facility.
I think that, you know, the hope is that the arts incubator ends up being this like kind of like destination tourist point. And then, because it kind of forces you to see everything in the city. Like when you're coming through the city, like you see everything. You're going to see the trades district. You're going to see the convention center. You're going to see Monroe Oil. You're going to see all of these different things before you actually hit the point that you're trying to get to. And it's really important that people aren't just like coming to one side of the city and then not seeing the rest of it. You know, and I think that can happen here because things are so spread out. So making these connections will benefit not only these main areas, but like everything in between, you know?
So it sounds like ultimately from the notes though, the idea is to sort of to launch this, to get it growing, and then
It will be its own 501c3. And so it will occupy a nonprofit status and be able to, I guess, somewhat independently run and so forth.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's our main goal. And we're already, you know, I'm always doing this work in the city of just saying, okay, who are the next generation leaders? Who are the folks like this that I could target, who even might be part of this first cohort in this space, who will be the ones who help us establish and lead that 501c3 going forward.
Yeah.
I was just quickly gonna ask something about sustainability for long term. What do you see, Holly, like in terms of 20 years, 30 years, that you brought up the, you know, next generation? And then with this investment that you're requesting, is this like the hard stop, or is there more that you really wanted to ask for and you just kind of wanted to keep it at, you know, 100,000?
I'll take all the money you'll give me. But I think 100,000 is a good start for us, and that will enable us again just to get things up and running. I feel good about the Ready grant. I feel good about other funding opportunities we'll have and other regional partnerships we'll have that will just bringing other sources that will really make this thrive. What's great about the partnership with Secretly Group is, first of all, they are giving us a discounted rate per square foot on this space, which is amazing. And as we've talked with them about this and the Ready proposal and made sure that they're comfortable with us going forward with this, what they've shared with us is we see this as at least a 20-year-long venture. And what I really see this is as a first step where we really establish this space, get it to be really dynamic, get on the radar for folks who are passing through this area to come check it out, But you know, what I've learned as I've spent more time in the space and I've started putting together a map of where everything will go in this facility, I'm like, this isn't enough space. So to give every artist every resource that they need. So one thing I'm also thinking about as we embark upon this project is, what are the other spaces in town, like the Bloomington Creative Glass Center, who are already providing resources for specific types of arts activities, that we can use this as an opportunity to connect our artists if they don't fit in this 10,000 square space at the Bloomington Creative Glass Center? And what other spaces in the long run might we establish elsewhere in Bloomington for exhibitions, for working on artwork of other mediums that whose resources won't be included in this initial space? So I see this as just something that, if done right and strategically, could just continue to grow over time to populate many spaces downtown, but also bring together a network of artists and folks who want to provide those kind of resources together in a more communal, less siloed way. I feel like there are so many different types of artist resources available in a few different places in Bloomington that folks just don't know exist. So I see this as an opportunity to kind of pull us closer together.
Some questions?
Yeah, so Holly, referring back to our previous conversation about DEI, when you're recruiting the first cohort, are you prioritizing or at least being, you know, sensitive to artists of color in particular, or what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. For any arts initiative I have, whether it is a grant cycle or a commission for a local work of art, we always try to prioritize artists who have been historically underrepresented. When we go out into the community, you know, I feel like when I came in, there was definitely a group of usual suspects who always knew when the grant cycles were coming, always knew they could probably apply for and successfully get a grant, could afford their own grant writer, and I was like, that's great, I'm happy for you guys. But what about the folks in the community, especially those of color, who have maybe not felt like they, you know, are elevated enough or like far along in their career enough to have access to these funds? I always try to prioritize them and make our application process like most accessible to them, so we can make sure that we're considering them and kind of giving them priority for the space.
Great, thank you. And did you refer to this as a creative class center? Is that the name of this incubator?
So this incubator, so almost right across the street, closer to Grimes on the B line, is something called the Bloomington Creative Glass Center. We've actually, the BOA has given them an arts grant many, many times. And they're just a fantastic facility if you're interested in blowing glass. And as we were kind of deciding what kind of equipment we were going to put in this space, we were like, let's not do glass. Let's just send the folks who are interested in doing glass across the street.
Gotcha.
Let's strengthen our relationship with the glass center.
I just misheard glass as class. Yeah.
Okay. It's probably my nasally voice today.
So what amount are you applying for with Ready 2.0?
I believe we're still working out the budget now, and it's an ambitious budget. So it's to build out things like a stage, like a formal gallery space, including offices, and there will also be a kitchen. We're also applying for funding for many staff, and we're also applying for funding for a consultant to come in and work with our original cohort of artists and stakeholders in the community to make sure that we're building it out in a way that fits our artists' most dire needs. I think we're landing roughly right now at asking for about $3.5 million. But I can give you a specific number by the end of the week if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, I was just curious about if there's a specific percentage for the local match. And how that $100,000, if that's like, it meets it completely, or sounds like it probably wouldn't.
It doesn't, but we're also pulling things on, like, for example, my staff time, some of Chaz Mottinger, who is my colleague's staff time, money that we'll be able to put towards the project from our ED Lit and general fund budget next year as well.
Okay.
And other, so it's a 4 to 1 match 4 public to 1 private,
Okay.
to 1 grant. And the 4 public, because it's adjacent to the Switchyard Park, I believe we are able to count the city's investments that it made in that space.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would do it.
Yeah.
And Artisan Alley, are they closed? Because I know they used to.
They are closed,
Okay,
unfortunately.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
just my final comment, Dee, when you kicked this off, you mentioned that it ties in with the city's one of the city's economic development goals. I think when we do strategic planning, it would be useful for our group to have clearly articulated, like, what those city goals are.
Absolutely.
So, just comment. Okay, thank you.
I have a question on residency status. How will you, have you thought through to, I guess, force someone to prove residency? I guess I'm asking, is it Monroe County? Is it, like, how far do you go and do you care? Because I know you mentioned trying to get students, whether they be from Indiana University or Ivy Tech, maybe to stay on, and you would have to probably, who knows, dangle some carrot in front of them to, because being an artist is not easy. But I think most artists know that going into it, hopefully. But to that point, how do you, if you need to fill your space, let's say, to make sure the mortgage is taken care of or whatever, how are you going to force to prove residency, or have you considered maybe having a percentage that would not be residents if you need to fill in the gaps? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And again, this is something we also think about for some of our grant cycles. Some of our grant cycles are for Bloomington specific residents only. And so basically we just have, we can check with some of the city's GIS tools, like whether or not an address is within city limits or is within the BUEA zone. That's something we do when we decide who we're giving BUEA grant funds for this as well. So the way I think about this working is we definitely want, and my personal preference is to give the majority of these spaces to local artists. But I think we also need to recognize that, we're part of a larger region that has much less access to the types of artist resources that we can find. And we also have a lot of talent in those other areas that our artists could benefit from being exposed to. And one of the points of the Ready 2.0 grant is to think about region-wide partnerships. So we are specifically speaking with folks over at Owen County and folks at Brown County and folks over at Jasper, who also are trying to do more with their artists to say, hey y'all, we're gonna start this system. How could we possibly collaborate to give some of your artists a space?
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Holly, thank you for the great follow-up today and the additional memo. I think that clarified a lot, and I appreciate the timeline also and what you're looking to accomplish with this space. It sounds very exciting and encouraging. Bloomington does often talk about being a community of artists and arts destination, and we know that it's an economic driver certainly for our community, and to have something like this really kind of anchoring that downtown and zone space, I think sounds really exciting. I mean, I look forward to going there and seeing artists that I know, or whether it be in a performance or visual arts or whatever. So I'm already excited about it personally. But I think as an organization, this seems like it aligns well with the mission. It's in the zone. It's contributing to people living in the zone, access to arts, and it, I think, would be a really great kind of connector for, from kind of the trades district down to that south end. It sounds very exciting.
With the, I appreciate that big picture framing, and I also appreciate that the BUEA would be supporting the physical accessibility of the space. That's really meaningful. And Holly, on certain BUA projects in the past, we would have signage kind of acknowledging the BUA support.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be possible somewhere in the space?
Oh, yeah, of course. We could do a mural dedicated to that.
I always wanted a statue.
I love it. As well as acknowledgement of public
Sculpture.
and things like that.
I
A
didn't
small
mean to.
Mount Rushmore.
You were tying it in a beautiful bow,
Oh, no.
and then I said, and.
No,
So
no.
I'm so sorry.
No, please, I'm glad that's, we should always remember that, acknowledgement, we are, contributing. And I agree that having the accessibility piece of it funded by the UA really, it does align well with the mission of the organization. All right, are there?
You have to go.
No, I'm sorry, I'm just cold.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to do that.
I'm over here like really warm, and so somebody
saying,
puts a
are you
coat on.
freezing?
Oh, really? I always,
But I'm always freezing.
I'm always hot. So anyway, okay. So again, Holly, thank you. Any final questions on this piece of the budget? Okay.
Thank you, Holly. Great
Thank
work.
you. Thank you on that.
Thanks
All right.
y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Holly. Feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Dee. I'm
Okay.
gonna let you pick it back up then.
All right, so moving on, the numbers pretty much stayed the same from 24 to 2025 with the exception of the historic facade grant. I've increased that by $10,000 as we have pushed those dollars out the door this year, which is great. So that leaves us with $260,000 for arts and culture, should the incubator stay in there. Moving on to zone improvement. We have direct assistance, small business and community support. These are the small dollar grants that I spoke of at a couple of past meetings. We've had a lot of need, so you'll see that almost every single line, actually every single line within the zone improvement grants has been increased. Climate resiliency programs and grants, that is a new line that I put in there. I think that there were some sustainability grants, there's some climate resiliency and sustainability grants that I wanted to do before, but I just don't have the bandwidth to actually make them and execute them. So this $20,000 would be administered by sustainability. Sean Mia out of the Department of Economic and Sustainable Development would be helping us or helping me with that.
And that would be for businesses specifically.
That would be specifically for businesses or something that would affect all of the residents in the zone. Like, so like if we wanted to do like the program with the pools that she did before, like that would be something that she could do with that money,
Yeah.
you know, but it's either businesses or the entirety of the zone.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be quiet, sorry. I always can get us on a tangent that's interesting and worthy of support, so I'm just gonna zip it, but thanks. Look at that, guys. Learning.
We can talk about it later.
So, hey Dee, just real quick back
Sure.
to the new $25,000, this direct assistance.
Yes.
This, just to recap from what was talked about earlier, these are intended to be like, what, under $1,000, really
Yes.
quick turnaround grants that technically would be administered through your office,
Yes.
right? So this isn't something that's going to have to come before the board. You'll report to the board, but
Yes.
this way it gives you the flexibility to be able to activate funds quickly in a situation when a business needs a $750
Whatever. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There has to be, yes, a window was broken and you need to be able to activate funds quickly or something like that. So this would give you that flexibility.
It would.
To do that. Okay.
It would.
All right. Good deal.
Small business safety and security, increase of increase of $10,000 to $35,000. Business building improvement increase of $5,000. There's actually carryover from our former funding, or it can be straight into a new budget. I think that I just pulled up the older draft, not the one that I sent to you. Regardless, the line is $35,000. for small business safety and security and for the business building improvement. And then business accessibility modification is $25,000. That brings us to $135,000 for zone improvement grants. Still trying to figure out how to do the prospective early childhood education grants and programs. I'm hoping that by 2025 we'll have something. I'll have something carved out, and I'll have some assistance in getting something like that out together. So the total grant sponsorship budget total is $538,000 or $538,500. Our total income for 2025 will be, or potentially be, $458,780. Our total expenditures will be $634,500, with a net income at negative $175,720. We will be running at a deficit for the year. I think that with the reserves that we have and the potential, and this potential amount of expenditure, I think we can swing it. I think that the programs that Holly has set forth and prospective programs coming up are worth us utilizing this money, because they're not just things that they're not one-time projects.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that are lasting things that will continue to improve the zone and improve the quality of life of the residents of the zone. So.
And honestly, that deficit really is also driven by the idea and the hope that all of the allocated funds for the different grants is actually spent in its entirety.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as we see, I know we still have Q4 coming our way, but as we see, we're not doing that. We're not activating all of those funds. And I think it would be great if we could. And if we do, then we say, okay, we're accepting that we'll have a negative net income next year. Because I didn't go back and look, I didn't have time. I wanted to go back and look at like the last 5 years just to run like what has our 5-year cumulative net income been, has it been? Because we're clearly growing revenue. And so I'm okay with a negative budget knowing that we have a substantial amount of funds. And I would love to see all of these dollars spent, like all of the great stuff we would do, right, as an organization if those dollars were spent. So.
Dee, where were the pain points for you in this budget? The places you had to make cuts or not able to fund in ways you would have preferred?
I mean, there's like the dream of just like, giving a ton of money to the Arts Incubator, making the zone improvement grants $500,000 and I can give out huge amounts of money. But I also need to understand what the bandwidth that I have, because the more money I put in, the more I have to get that done. So I think the pain point is that I can't spend money because of the bandwidth that I have.
So bring more money in. So
yes.
That's part of the additional expense there. Is
right. So bringing more money in as far as our administrative costs should lessen that pain considerably. So we can spend all this money. I do want to spend all this money. I want to spend all of your money. But yeah, I do want to be able to expand these programs. I want more people to have access to them, and or more zone residents to know that they're there and to have more money to be able to support those zone residents and those zone businesses. Yeah.
I have a random question on the ADA improvement. So if the building is historical, do you have to do another step to try to get approval?
So in the grant, the way that it is written, you have to have a certificate of appropriateness for the improvement.
Okay.
So if you already have a historic, if it's already a historic building, you're gonna have to get some type of approval to do something about it. So if you get the approval to do that, then you can come to us and be like, hey, I'm applying for this grant. Sometimes it has to go through historic preservation, sometimes it doesn't. So the historic preservation, like, with our facade grant, it usually comes through historic preservation.
Okay.
That's where we get it first.
Noah, can't remember what his title
He's
is.
our,
Yeah,
he came before us. Yeah, historic,
program
yeah,
manager.
program
He
manager.
would be your first stop.
Yeah. Okay.
But that would be exciting. What do you have, like a slight ramp and then a step?
So it's just a step. So they just did the improvements on College or 4th Street. But it just, I don't know, it just breaks my heart every time someone, is trying to enter that has, they're differently abled or they have a mobility. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
But that's a historic building.
And it's just like, yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I have like super empathy because I've had like 3 knee surgeries and my last replacement was last August, and it's difficult, right? When
Sure.
you
Want to invite them in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You hate to have to, be that
Ask
business.
us.
So I don't know, and I mean, that mine is not the only building, but I think sometimes you think, when I think historic, because I had that trouble when I was in the building where Fat Dan's is now.
Yes.
Like years ago when Isan Tai was there.
Yeah.
And we had a few customers who had significant mobility challenges and they couldn't get in. And it was like, this is so poor. So anyway, just kind of had that out of curiosity. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It is possible.
Also, just made me sad about Isan Tai,
Yeah, right?
Delicious food.
I forgot about that.
No, dang it. Oh, sorry,
I
hard.
know.
It's a hard day already.
That's so funny.
I think this is exciting, and I know too, you and I have just briefly talked about like the mobile food truck world, and like do they not qualify for any of these, or if it's in the zone, they could qualify? Is that right?
I mean, you would either have to be a zone resident who owns a business. I guess if we're talking about mobile,
Yeah.
if you were a zone resident that owned a mobile food truck or a push cart, I mean, potentially, I guess you could qualify.
I just wonder, right, because I feel like so many of them, because I'm in that world now, like could benefit from so much of this, and like, yeah.
I'll have to
Or
look
would it be
into
like
it.
where their business is located, which is the commissary for a lot, which then is over there.
Right.
I think
Right.
they'd have to
Right.
qualify somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that operating part-time in the zone is probably, like, that's
Enough.
not.
Yeah.
enough.
Oh, like if they are part-time, if they move around and sometimes they're downtown.
But like, I think
kind of.
a business address, a residential address, or a commissary address, or.
I think, yeah, that would probably
Something
fit
like
in.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we
I just
could
think
try to
about the
work through
folks who
that.
are like, take like the big plunge for like their full-time employment, as a mobile vendor, and like
Yeah.
that is scary and hard.
And,
Yeah.
we aren't just the BUEA. The city has a whole suite of programs that are not BUEA that support businesses across the city.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we might have other ways to connect.
Then I just think about like the Creating Places Indiana grant cycle. That's like a matching grant up to 50,000. That it is so cool. I think that like small businesses in the zone could benefit from that too, right? I mean, it is different, but it's like a way to inject funding, even like with the arts incubator, that could absolutely do that when there's like capacity to do it, right? And that some of the programs, a lot of them they're placemaking. So like even like mobile carts could get together and be like, we're gonna have this property that becomes a corner market, right? Where it becomes like an outdoor space or something. It's just like there's so much I think that can be done, and like that all the zone improvement grants are like super helpful and like exciting. It's like feels like endless opportunities and possibilities. I don't know. It's just
That's
fun.
through IHCDA.
IHCDA, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think Holly, I should talk to her about it eventually. Funding unknown with a new administration.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion?
We do. Are there any final questions or comments from anyone?
Before we vote, I just want to thank Dee so much for the work that she's put into the budget and the thoughtfulness behind adding some of the new zone improvement grants, and and to Holly, Holly, you're still on. Thank you, Holly, for your hard work and the excitement around something like bringing an arts facility, like, I mean, that's so exciting. It's so exciting, and it will be accessible because of BUEA's money. So I love the Waldron, but we all know there's tricky challenges and so forth, and so how wonderful to have that coming online.
Flag something that is not here, just so that we say it on the record.
Sure.
So in previous iterations of this budget, I don't know if it was presented last meeting, but we talked about the RRF loan program and we talked about RRF forgiveness. And Dia and I had committed to bringing a memo to this meeting in December to talk about that program. And there's been great progress made, but it just isn't ready for prime time yet. So I just want to acknowledge that that is still a priority from the staff perspective, if I'm putting my staff hat on, and that we would like to discuss that in future, but it didn't really belong in this budget, and it's accounted for a little bit differently since it's currently an asset.
It's a receivable, so
Yeah.
it would be.
But I just wanted to say we are committed to bringing that memo in January.
Appreciate that. Okay. Do we have a motion? What's that?
I so move.
All right. Do we have a second? And this again is approving the 2025 BUEA budget.
Second.
Jenya, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Budget passes. Thank you, everyone.
You have made a city worker very happy. Thank you guys.
Yay! Good job. Yeah, a lot of moving parts here, so appreciate all that hard
Heather,
work.
Jane's last comment has caused me to remember something I wanted. As we move towards strategic planning, it would really help me, in my ignorance, to know, to have some graph or some chart, not only of funding, but also of allied organizations that are engaged in this work, because I keep learning of others that in one way or another are assisted. And I don't need anything sophisticated or fancy,
Yeah.
just, these are the funding sources and these are the 6 other organizations, regional or local, that with whom we might cooperate.
Actually, we were just talking about this yesterday in our one-on-one of like being able to like start to kind of like connect the pieces and just having more, maybe it's more like matching funds between different organizations that do the same thing that we do, or being able to be like, hey, we can't fund this, but maybe you can, or things like that, and just kind of getting on the same page about that. I think it's going to be really vital in the next few years, because it's going to be a lot of local and community building, because, we, as a community, we have to take care of ourselves at this point in time. Like no one's going to save us. So
I'm just excited that we're all thinking about our strategic planning and like what are the missing pieces for us currently, and I'm really looking forward to thinking through that together. And this organization has so much heart, and it has made some very significant investments in the past, and then it's had years where it's been more dribs and drabs. And prior to 2020, the grant programs really hadn't changed over the years, and I'm excited about the incubator investment here, because kind of like the CDFI friendly investment, it's starting to be really more strategic rather than just dripping out funds that'll help a business keep limping along. It's going to magnetize the enterprise zone. And so when we think forward strategically together, I'm excited to think about what is really going to lift up the people that live in the zone, and what will be transformative for the businesses there in a really big way. Not that we do it all at once, but that we get clear on like what that is and how it aligns with this board's values.
yeah, and I think that like especially thinking about the incubator space and what Holly's done with like the smaller grants is give this like direct assistance to these artists, and like that was kind of step 1. Now step 2 is showing them how to help themselves, we got them, and we've gotten a lot of artists in a place where it's like, okay, this is my passion, this is what I can do, and now we're giving them the space to do it, and thinking about that in other facets, how we directly help businesses. Okay, now what's the next step in helping these businesses, and like thinking bigger and broader, especially if we can get more revenue or we can get more income, then yeah, I mean, that's the point. We should be spending the money and being smart about it. So, yeah.
I had one other just general thought when you get your person, and I also agree, Dee, you're amazing, because this is a lot. It's a lot going on at one time. So, some people say team too much, ma'am, but you can't help it, right? But once you get your person in place, I'm sitting here thinking of having some type of like information sessions just going along with that are open and public. Because again, I wouldn't have known anything about any of these things, honestly, like having been a business owner in Bloomington way before I had the popcorn shop. Like, I owned Print Mart for several years downtown on 6th Street. If you're familiar where that used to be, King Doe occupied the space, and then it's a whole thing.
Oh,
yeah, I was like in my 20s.
Stop saying the restaurant.
I know, I'm hungry. But yeah, but
Max's is coming back and will be in the
Max's?
and it's gonna be in the enterprise zone. But
Exciting.
sorry to-
No, that's okay. I'm so hungry right now. I'm like drinking my coffee, like, oh, this is food. But it's not. So, but I understand like entrepreneurship, but I literally had no idea about any of these opportunities that were available locally, and there's still some that we probably should look out for in terms of my business, but like thanks to Jane and Dee and different ones that were like, hey, you should consider, so I just appreciate the work that you've done, and I do agree that not only for minoritized populations but just everybody, it's hard when you're a business owner. You're so fixated on like, I got to make sure that the payroll is paid this week because I really don't want to go to night moves.
Yeah.
I know I'd make a lot of money, but however, okay, is this on record? Sorry, y'all, I'm hungry. I may say anything. Seriously, I do say anything. Okay. But anyway, just trying to say, like, seriously, I'm grateful because, you don't know what you don't know, right? And there's so many things that can help, and even just talking and having the resources. So I'm thinking once, your person gets in place, maybe setting up some info sessions just so that the community at large will literally know. Like, because I'm on the Habitat board as well. So, if you want to apply to be in the program, you have to come to an info session. That's the first step. And then you fill out an interest form.
Right.
I think that can be so incredibly helpful because even if you've 200 people come and your yield is 5%, that's something. And so I think, and I would be happy to volunteer myself, as not just only a person that's on the board, but also a person that has benefited greatly, by a program, because I think it can be super helpful and you just don't know what you don't know. So you're doing a fantastic job. I'm glad you're like seeking out some help because, we can't have you running yourself into the ground. But so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And strike that night move comment from the record. Or not, because I said it and I own it. Okay, Phil.
Suddenly go through like an hour and 25 minutes of the meeting.
No problem. I ain't ashamed. It's all right.
The end was worth it.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm
I
done.
don't think anything else needs to be said.
Yep, I'm done.
Do we need motions?
Yeah, do we do?
Oh, God.
I know. So, yeah, meeting adjourned. Everyone, happy holidays.
You.